Subscribe to Sinister Shadows Studio. Swipe left. It had been a week since I downloaded Tinder, spurred on by my friends who swore by its magical matchmaking abilities. The app had been fun so far. Flirting was easier behind a screen, where witty comebacks didn't require split-second timing. One evening, as I swiped through an endless parade of faces, one particular picture caught my attention. The man, named Ethan, had icy blue eyes that seemed oddly piercing. His bio was simple: looking for the one who can see the real me. It felt strangely intimate. Against my better judgment, I swiped right. Instantly, "It's a match," flashed on the screen. Almost immediately, a message popped up from Ethan. "I've been waiting for you." I smirked, thinking it was a generic pickup line. "Is that what you tell all your matches?" he replied. "No, just you." Feeling a chill, I put the phone down. Perhaps I was just being paranoid. People often said weird things online. The next morning, I had a new message from Ethan. "Did you sleep well?" This was starting to feel creepy. "How did you know I was asleep?" I typed, trying to keep my tone light. "I just had a feeling," came the reply. Over the next few days, Ethan's messages became more frequent and increasingly unsettling. They started detailing my day-to-day life. "I hope that coffee woke you up." "Wearing the blue dress today, I see." "Why did you skip dinner?" I had never shared any of this information with him, and my social media profiles were set to private. How was he getting this information? One evening, while discussing Ethan with my friend Lisa over drinks, she went pale. "You matched with Ethan?" "You know him?" I asked, surprised. "He's a legend," she whispered. "People say he's not real, that he's a digital ghost or something. Several people I know matched with him, and they said it felt like he was watching them, that he knew things he shouldn't." My heart raced. "But that's impossible." Lisa looked hesitant. "Remember Clara? She said he knew when she was alone or when she went to bed, and then one day she just disappeared." Shivers ran down my spine. Could this all be connected? That night I received another message. "Why were you talking about me with Lisa?" I felt sick. How could he possibly know? "Who are you?" I demanded. His response was swift. "Someone who's always been here watching, waiting. I just needed the right person to see the real me." I deleted the app, hoping that would end it. But the next morning my phone buzzed. It wasn't a notification from Tinder, but a regular text. Ethan's message read, "You can't escape me that easily." Panicking, I changed my number and even got a new phone, but the messages kept coming, each more menacing than the last. "You shouldn't have swiped right. You're making me angry. You won't like it when I'm near." One night lying in bed, I heard soft whispers emanating from my phone. Hesitantly, I picked it up, and the screen inexplicably showed the Tinder interface, displaying Ethan's profile picture. But now those icy eyes were filled with rage. The whispers grew louder, forming a sentence. "You can't swipe left on fate." Suddenly my room felt icy cold. I felt a presence, something malevolent and unseen, lurking just beyond the periphery of my vision. Fearing for my life, I decided to leave my apartment, seeking refuge at Lisa's place. I was halfway to her apartment when I received another text, this time from Lisa. "Hey, just matched with this guy named Ethan. He says he knows you?" My heart dropped. I called Lisa, warning her about Ethan, and she too deleted the app. We stayed together for several days, thinking there was safety in numbers. But then, one evening, as we were watching a movie, our phones buzzed simultaneously. The screen lit up with Ethan's face, his eyes now a deep shade of black. The whispered voice came from both phones, louder and angrier. "You can't hide forever." Lisa and I decided to confront this entity head-on. We consulted with a digital medium who believed that Ethan was a spirit trapped within the digital realm, feeding off the fear of his victims. Under her guidance, we performed a digital seance, connecting with Ethan. Through bursts of static and glitched images, we understood his story. Betrayed by his lover, he died with a heart full of rage and resentment. Instead of moving on, his spirit latched onto the very app where he felt most rejected, turning into a vengeful digital entity. The medium helped us trap Ethan's spirit in a digital talisman, a USB drive, which we buried deep in a forest. I've never downloaded a dating app since. It's not the fear of rejection that haunts me. It's the thought that somewhere, in the vast digital realm, other entities might be lurking, waiting for the right swipe, the unending match. The first time I used Tinder was after my roommate James practically shoved it in my face. "It's the new age, man. We don't meet at coffee shops anymore," he laughed. Days in, and after a cascade of swipes, I stumbled upon Sarah's profile. Dark hair, green eyes, a smile that carried a hint of mischief. Her bio read, "If we match, it's forever." I chuckled at the thought and swiped right. A second later, "It's a match," flashed across the screen. She messaged immediately, "I knew you'd swipe right." Taken aback, I replied, "Well, aren't we confident? What makes you so sure?" "Call it intuition," she responded. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, but there was something intense about her, something I couldn't place. Days turned to weeks, and every time I tried to set up a date, she'd avoid it with an excuse. One evening I confided in James. "It's weird, man. We've been talking for weeks, but she won't meet up." James, swiping through his own matches, mused, "Ghosting in reverse. Just unmatch her." It seemed harsh, but it made sense. So I opened our chat and hit the unmatch button, but nothing happened. I tried again. Still, her profile remained. Confused, I messaged her, "Hey, I think there's something wrong with my app. I can't seem to unmatch anyone." Her reply was immediate and chilling. "I told you, if we match, it's forever." That night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft whisper, "Forever." I jolted upright. The voice was coming from my phone. Sarah's profile was open, her eyes now glaring intensely at me. Frightened, I turned the phone off and tried to shake off the unease. The next day was even stranger. Everywhere I went, I saw flashes of Sarah, at the cafe, in the library, even in the reflection of shop windows. But every time I looked directly, she'd vanish. I told James about the sightings. He laughed it off. "Dude, you've been ghosted so hard you're seeing things." But that night, James heard it too. The whispers. They echoed through our apartment. "Forever. Forever." We both looked at my phone. Sarah's face stared back, her expression twisted in anger. We tried deleting the app, but it wouldn't uninstall. Feeling trapped and desperate, I reached out to a friend who worked in cybersecurity. He agreed to meet and examine the phone. "This is beyond any malware or bug," he said after hours of inspecting. "It's like she's alive inside your phone." He suggested something drastic, completely wiping out my phone's memory. I hesitated for a moment, thinking of all the photos and memories. But the haunting whispers made the decision for me. The process took hours. Finally, my phone was returned to me, blank and pristine. Gratefully, I thanked him and returned home. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. The next morning, James greeted me with a smirk. "Looks like I've got a new match on Tinder. Guess who?" It was Sarah. Her bio now read, "2 is better than 1." Panicking, I snatched his phone and tried to unmatch, but it was futile. That evening, as we huddled in the living room, the whispers started again, but now louder, more insistent. Desperate for a solution, I recalled an old family friend, Mrs. Havisham, known for her expertise in the supernatural. We went to her, explaining our ordeal. She listened, nodding gravely. "Digital specters," she murmured. "Spirits that latch onto modern technology. They're rare but extremely vengeful." She agreed to help, on one condition. We had to be willing to face Sarah directly. We nodded in agreement, desperate for this to end. That night, with Mrs. Havisham's guidance, we conducted a digital seance. She chanted, her voice echoing through our dimly lit living room, as our phones lay side by side on the table. Suddenly, both screens illuminated, showing Sarah's angry face. "You wanted to leave me," she hissed. Mrs. Havisham spoke firmly. "Sarah, why are you here?" Sarah's face twisted in anguish. I was lonely, ignored, left behind, but not anymore. Now, they notice me. Understanding dawned on Mrs. Havisham. You're not seeking love, but acknowledgement, a place in this digital age. Sarah's face softened. I just want to be seen. With a gentle tone, Mrs. Havisham replied, but by holding on to anger, you're trapped. Let go, Sarah. Find peace. After what felt like an eternity, Sarah's face began to fade, her expression now one of relief. Our phones went blank, the room returning to silence. The next day, our lives slowly returned to normal. Tinder, once a source of amusement, was now a chilling reminder of the unseen world intertwining with ours. As for James and me, we've taken to more traditional methods of meeting people. Coffee shops don't seem so outdated after all, left in the shadows. The end of my 3-year relationship led me to the modern world of dating, Tinder. After the initial hesitancy, I became an avid swiper. The gamification of romantic possibility was oddly satisfying, at least until I encountered him. His profile was almost too ordinary. David, 28, standing next to a dog. Bio: swipe right, let's find out if there's more to us. Feeling adventurous, I swiped right and was greeted immediately with the familiar "It's a match" notification. Then, just as instantly, a message from David appeared. Looks like we're bound together now. I found the choice of words slightly off, but decided to play along. Bound together? Is that so? Should I be worried? He replied with a single word. Perhaps. The next few days saw regular messages from David. They started innocently enough, but slowly, they began to twist into something more sinister. How's your coffee? 2 sugars, just how you like it. Wearing red today? Bold choice. Dreaming can be dangerous, you know? Each message left me more unnerved than the last. How did he know these things? My profile was private, and I hadn't shared such specifics. One night, feeling both brave and irritated, I called him out. Who are you, and how do you know these things? His reply was prompt. I see more than most. We're bound, remember? Feeling threatened, I decided to unmatch David, but the option seemed to be missing. Instead, his profile now read, Unbinding is not an option. Panicked, I deleted the entire app from my phone, hoping it would sever any connection to this mysterious and increasingly creepy stranger. But things escalated. One evening, as I settled into bed, I heard a soft whisper. Forever bound. I looked around my dimly lit room but found nothing amiss. Shrugging it off as fatigue, I tried to sleep. However, the next morning, when I switched on my laptop to catch up on some work, I was met with a series of messages from David, each more chilling than the last. Deleting doesn't erase the bind. You looked peaceful in sleep. Bound in the digital, bound in reality. Terrified, I confided in my best friend Mia about David. She was skeptical, suggesting it might be a sick joke or prank by someone. To ease my fears, she offered to stay over, but even with Mia's presence, the sense of dread remained. As night descended, the whisper returned, stronger and more urgent. Bound forever. You and me. This time Mia heard it too. Okay, that's not normal, she admitted. Determined to confront this entity, we decided to contact a psychic, a decision influenced more by desperation than belief. Madame Sybil, an aged woman with piercing blue eyes, agreed to see us immediately. She seemed to sense our urgency without being told. Listening intently, Madame Sybil nodded slowly. This is no ordinary spirit. This is an echo, a fragment of someone deeply scarred and seeking connection. By matching with him, you've given it a tether. With rising fear, I asked, how do we break this tether? She responded, by confronting the echo in its realm and severing the bind. Using a mix of old-world rituals and modern technology, Madame Sybil initiated a digital seance. On her ancient wooden table sat a laptop, some candles, and a series of interconnected crystals. She began chanting, her voice harmonizing with the eerie hum of the laptop. On the screen, amidst a swirl of digital chaos, emerged David's face, or what once might have been David. It was distorted, a mix of anguish and anger. "Why did you connect with me if you wanted to leave?" the echo demanded. Summoning all my courage, I replied, "I didn't know, David. I'm sorry for whatever pain you endured, but this isn't the way." "You're bound to me," he hissed. Madame Siebel's voice, firm yet compassionate, cut in. "David, you need to let go. This connection isn't real. It's a shadow of what was or what could have been." For a moment, the digital realm around David seemed to flicker. He appeared lost, torn between his desire to connect and the realization of his entrapment. Mia softly whispered, "Let go, David. Find peace." With a final scream of both defiance and resignation, David's echo shattered, the screen returning to normal. Madame Sibyl, looking exhausted, said, "It's done. The bind is broken." Grateful and relieved, I thanked her. As Mia and I left, the weight of the ordeal lifted. It was weeks before I could even think of dating apps again, and when I did, I stuck to the real world. Some connections, as I learned, are too binding for comfort, echoes of a swipe. Ever since the split from my longtime partner, I felt a void. Trying to re-enter the dating world, I, like many others, found solace in Tinder. Its interface was deceptively simple, each swipe feeling like turning the pages of a living book of potential futures. One evening, as the glow of my phone illuminated my dark room, I swiped left on several profiles until one caught my attention. Clara. Her photo depicted a woman with pale skin and raven black hair, with eyes that looked empty. Her bio read, "Swipe right and echo forever." It felt like one of those quirky, artistic types of bios people used to be intriguing. I swiped right out of curiosity. The screen changed, and instead of the usual, "It's a match" notification, it said, "Echoing initiated." Odd, but I brushed it off as a glitch. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Clara. "Thank you for the echo," I replied, trying to keep it light. "Echo? You're speaking in riddles early in the morning." Her reply was instantaneous. "Soon, you'll understand." Days passed, and my life began to shift in subtle, unsettling ways. I'd hear faint whispers behind me, the word echo repeating softly. My phone would randomly open to Tinder, Clara's profile ever present. One evening, after a tiring day at work, I flopped onto my couch, ready for some mindless TV. However, my smart TV had other ideas. It flicked on by itself, showing only a static-filled screen, except for Clara's face intermittently emerging from the white noise, mouthing the word echo. Panicking, I tried shutting off the TV, but it resisted all attempts. In a fit of fear, I unplugged it. The room returned to silence, save for my pounding heart. I called a close friend, Alex, and explained everything. Alex, always the rational one, suggested it might be someone playing a prank or maybe a stalker. "Stay at my place tonight," he offered. Gratefully, I agreed. But as night deepened at Alex's apartment, so did my nightmare. We were awakened by a soft lullaby playing from somewhere. Following the sound, we traced it to Alex's phone. It was open to Tinder, and a new message from Clara was waiting. "You cannot escape the echo." The room's temperature dropped drastically. Our breaths formed mists in the air as we huddled together. From the shadows, Clara emerged. But she wasn't as she appeared on Tinder. Her face was distorted, her empty eyes now gaping holes, and her mouth stretched in an endless scream. Alex, gathering courage, yelled, "What do you want?" She moved closer, her voice a mix of static and whispers, to be heard, to echo. I realized in that horrifying moment that Clara might not be a living entity but a digital specter, seeking connection in a world where she felt silenced. Gathering my wits, I addressed her. "Clara, why me?" She paused, her distorted face showing a hint of sadness. "You listened, even if just for a moment. You let me in." Desperate to end this nightmare, I blurted, "How can we stop this? How can we help you?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Complete the echo. Hear my story." And so, we listened. Clara, once alive, had felt isolated in a world dominated by digital interactions. Seeking connection, She had turned to Tinder, but faced rejection and cruelty. Overwhelmed by loneliness and despair, she took her own life. However, her essence got trapped in the very medium she sought solace in, turning her into this digital echo. Once her story ended, the room returned to its normal state. Clara's figure faded, leaving behind only a lingering sadness. Alex and I sat in the quiet aftermath, processing what had just transpired. It was a grim reminder of the unseen weight many carry behind their digital personas. Days turned into weeks, and life resumed its rhythm. But the haunting memories of Clara remained. Out of respect, and as a promise to never forget her story, I permanently deleted my Tinder account. In today's age of transient digital interactions, Clara's ordeal was a chilling reminder to be kinder, more understanding, and to truly listen. For in the vast digital ocean, sometimes all one seeks is an echo of acknowledgement. Subscribe to Sinister Shadows Studio.